Welcome to The Explainer. So today we're breaking down an absolutely fascinating source on dating psychology. We're going to unpack some really deeply rooted ideas about human connection and attraction. But hey, let me just set the tone right out of the gate here. This isn't about cheap pickup lines or, superficial tricks. The material we're analyzing today focuses on a fundamental shift in perspective. It's about moving away from seeking constant validation and instead building genuine emotional intelligence and self-mastery. We're basically taking a deep dive into the mechanics of the mind.
To start us off, let's talk about a classic cinematic myth. Think about how many movies and stories tell us that women are just incomprehensibly mysterious, right? We kind of have this habit of labeling things as a mystery simply because, well, we don't understand them. But the source material we're looking at today argues something entirely different. It suggests that the real secret isn't magic at all. It's simply about understanding the subconscious mind. By decoding behavioral patterns and shifting emotions, that whole mystery, it actually dissolves into clear psychological logic.
Okay, let's dive right into this. We'll be looking at solving the mystery, going beyond traditional compliments, distance and attraction, social proof, self-respect and boundaries, and finally, wrapping up with the alpha mindset.
Section 1. Solving the mystery. So, the foundation of this entire psychological framework rests on changing how we view the very root of attraction itself. The source totally dismantles the popular idea that expensive gifts, flashy bank balances, or textbook good looks are what actually win hearts. Those are external factors, and honestly, they inevitably fade. Instead, true attraction, the kind that creates a really deep, unshakable emotional connection, stems from what they call subconscious decoding. It's literally about understanding how the human brain works from the inside out. When you learn to speak to someone's subconscious, you completely bypass all that superficial noise.
Section 2. Beyond traditional compliments.
Now, ordinarily, when a guy meets a beautiful woman, the absolute default reaction is to praise her physical appearance. But our analysis points out a pretty harsh reality here. An attractive person hears about their looks, 50 times a day? To their brain, those compliments just become background noise. You instantly become just another face in a very crowded line. The high-value behavior, however, is the exact opposite. Instead of praising physical beauty, you compliment the depth of her thoughts or her unique perspective. By saying something like, "Wow, the way your mind works is really fascinating," you create a unique emotional storm. You make her feel genuinely seen and understood for who she actually is, not just what she looks like on the outside.
Section 3. Distance and attraction. Listen, there's a really common pitfall the source identifies as the nice guy trap. It's a situation where men actually destroy their own value by overcommitting way too early. It's a harsh psychological truth, but humans, just by our very nature, lose appreciation for anything that's too easily attained, right? If a man immediately drops all his hobbies, his work, and his friends just to be available 24/7, he completely loses the very tension that builds attraction. Operating like a devoted servant waiting on standby doesn't create love. It just creates a dynamic where you're pretty much guaranteed to be taken for granted.
So, if being endlessly available is a trap that leads to being taken for granted, it begs the question, what exactly is the right way? How do you show interest without losing your own value in the process? Now, what's really interesting about this is that the source outlines a highly effective push and pull dynamic. You start by giving genuine, high-quality attention, but then, and this is absolutely crucial, you gracefully step back. You reduce your availability. Now, let's be super clear here. The source is definitely not advising you to be rude, manipulative, or to maliciously ignore anyone. Actually, scratch that. It's really just about genuinely prioritizing your own life, your own goals, and your purpose over constant, uninterrupted availability. That sudden space, it plants a tiny seed of uncertainty, which naturally builds emotional investment. They start thinking about you, and that thought process itself is exactly what fuels attraction.
Section 4. Social proof and competition.
The psychological term for this next concept is pre-selection, or social proof. Think about it neutrally for a second. A person whose entire world revolves around just one individual quickly becomes, uninteresting and predictable. But when someone is visibly liked and valued by others, society has essentially pre-selected them as a high-value individual. The source points out that we are just naturally drawn to what other people find valuable. It's human nature. Let's break down how this actually works in practice. Maintaining a broad, active social world where you interact happily with others naturally elevates your status. According to the source, when a man is perceived as a prize by his community, it triggers a deep-seated subconscious human instinct to compete. It creates this subtle fear of loss. The brain literally sends a signal saying, "Hey, this person is valuable to others, I need to secure their attention." It shifts the dynamic entirely from you chasing them to them recognizing your inherent value. Talk about a real game changer.
Section 5. Self-respect and boundaries. Now, none of the previous external tactics matter at all without strong personal boundaries. The source states that the single biggest mistake people make in dating is operating from a constant fear of loss. They act out of the fear of being blocked, rejected, or abandoned. So the crucial point is replacing that fear with an abundance mindset. This is the deep, unshakable belief that your happiness and your existence do not depend on any one person. You communicate through your body language and your actions, hey, I want you in my life, but I am entirely complete without you. True attraction absolutely requires this level of independence.
And how does this mindset hold up under pressure? Well, the source is very clear on how to handle tantrums or bad behavior. Step 1, never plead or try to appease someone who's acting poorly. Doing that just reinforces the bad behavior. Step 2, simply and politely withdraw your attention. Step 3, visibly demonstrate that you are willing to walk away from disrespect. The material notes that women, and honestly people in general, truly respect a person who refuses to beg for a place in their life. Firm boundaries are the absolute bedrock of genuine respect.
Section 6. The Alpha Mindset.
The source uses a really brilliant analogy here. Nobody reads a book twice if they already know exactly how it ends, right? On the one hand, we have the totally predictable man. His responses are known before he even opens his mouth. He's easily decoded, and therefore, human nature dictates he just becomes boring. On the other hand, we have the man who maintains a sense of mystery. He oscillates between deep, serious conversations and playful banter. He doesn't lay all his cards on the table at once. By leaving a few things unsolved, he occupies space in her mind. That mental suspense is exactly what keeps the emotional investment alive and thriving. To summarize the ultimate takeaway from this material, the concepts we've discussed today are not just a series of disconnected, cheap dating tricks. They form the foundation of what the author calls an alpha mindset. This means having a strong personal world with big goals. It means possessing unbreakable self-respect. It means you never ever beg to stay in someone's life. And you prioritize building your core character over obsessing about your physical appearance. Ultimately, your personal purpose is always the main priority. And this brilliantly illustrates the core message of the entire text. True power isn't controlling others, it's controlling yourself. Everything we've covered today, managing your availability, setting boundaries, maintaining emotional composure, it all comes down to self-mastery. You literally cannot control how another person feels or reacts, but you have absolute control over your own standards and your own reactions. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought based on today's explainer. Will you continue to exhaust your energy chasing external validation, or will you take these psychological principles and focus them inward, building a version of yourself that you are genuinely proud of? When you master yourself, the rest of the world naturally falls into place. Thank you so much for joining me for this deep dive into the psychology of connection and self-respect. Keep learning, keep growing, and I'll see you next time.